Over the course of this campaign, Mayor Hakes has claimed multiple times that he is 100% transparent, and that's unfortunately not true. His administration has been complicit in obscuring information from the public, as well as shutting down public discourse whenever they can, including at city council meetings, in meetings, as well as an attempt to do it online. Mayor Hakes seems to be a master at avoiding a paper trail. He insists on in-person conversation, which is not recorded nor is it reported. It's evidenced by gaping holes in public records requests where you can see that meetings are scheduled, that they happened, but no decisions made in those meetings nor the rationale behind those decisions are recorded for the public vetting process. Public records requests are also stunningly devoid of communications from the mayor himself, although communications from others in that records request indicate a very high level of involvement that he has had in projects that have come into scrutiny in the past year in particular. So with regard to this marketing poll, this is one of the best examples we have of the processes that this administration has used to obscure information as well as shut down discourse with the public. Mayor Hakes made a statement in a city hall meeting saying that there is no decision to build a building. And this is an apparent play to avoid discourse with the public regarding their concerns on this survey, as it contradicts directly an email that Councilwoman Jones sent 3 months prior to the survey contractor stating that Parks and Recreation would help them decide what should go into the building, or on the survey regarding what should go into the building, while Mayor Hakes was more concerned about the design of the building. So we're designing a building that A, hasn't been voted on yet, and B, we haven't even sent out a survey for it yet. And a survey which turned out to be a marketing poll to get an answer that the administration wanted and that agreed with their agenda. This also directly contradicts Councilwoman Egbert's statement where she said, while no project has been voted on, there will surely be an investment proposed to expand city facilities to support the existing departments. So they've already decided on this investment. It just hasn't been voted on by the public yet. It contradicts what the contractor himself said, where he said, I'm very impressed with the project that Mapleton is working on, and I'm honored to be a part of it. So even the contractor believes that this project is moving forward. Again, the survey at this point hasn't even been sent out to the public. It appears that they know what the answers to the survey are going to be already. And it contradicts what a city council member stated to us in a meeting when they said there will be a building. So, as Mayor Hakes stated in the debate, he works constantly in the back rooms with city employees, and he hasn't accepted enough credit. I think we can fairly credit him with this building because he's sitting there designing a building that, in his words, hasn't been decided on yet. And while he may not be lying about this, if he defines the decision as a public vote on a bond, the problem here is that this is an evident play to avoid public discourse until the very last hour when the law would require him to have discourse with the public. You know, this is a play to not have the processes of getting these votes put forward examined until the reporting laws require them to do so. We've seen it in their defense multiple times that the way contracts are decided in the city is transparent. Well, the transparency doesn't happen until the last 5% of the process, the bidding process. The 95% of the process leading up to this, you know, how the project is developed and decided on, well, that's as opaque as can be. And the information is behind a very costly paywall if you want to vet this whole process. This isn't transparency. This isn't transparency at all. For them to not want to be questioned or to have any public discourse up until the last 5% of the process when the law requires them to is absolutely not transparency. It's compliant. It is legally compliant. I'll give them that. But it is not transparent. And the really good question here is, what if we did wait to voice our concerns? What if we said, you know what, you're right. It is early in the process. We'll let you do your process. Do what you got to do. We will discuss this at a later date when you're ready to discuss this. Well, we saw with the RAP tax that this is not a good idea because it doesn't become transparent even then. We got involved with the RAP tax much later in the process at the truth and taxation point, where a flyer was sent out that was only the pro arguments regarding the tax. And just a reminder, 49% of this city voted against that tax. And when we asked our city officials, hey, what's up with that flyer? It only portrayed one side of this argument. You know, you mean to tell me that you couldn't find one person in 49% of this city who voted against it to write the dissenting argument? Or better yet, not a single person at City Hall could have seen 49% of this city's viewpoint well enough to write a dissenting argument. Their response was, we're not legally obligated to do that. Okay, they're compliant with the law, but they're not transparent, because what got sent out was a flyer that was so grossly one-sided, that caused so much confusion in this city, that it's not transparency. And probably the worst example of this opacity is when Councilwoman Jones, in pushing the mayoral agenda forward, was scheduled to meet with some citizens and other city officials regarding their concerns with the survey. Some citizens had noticed that this survey was designed to get an answer that was consistent with the mayoral agenda. And prior to this meeting, Councilwoman Jones emailed the survey contractor and said, we've had a firestorm response to the survey with incredible outrage and criticism. And this is a direct contradiction to the multiple times we had been told, you are a loud minority. Be quiet. Everybody else wants this. You are the loud minority. This is a firestorm response, was the word she used. And it gets worse when the city contractor responds by saying, essentially an explanation of the purposes of the survey, a little bit of methodology in it, but finishes it off with appealing to his authority as an expert. And then advised that it would be of little or no value of getting into an argument about methods. He then, this appeal to his authority, he is discouraging conversation with their constituents. And Councilwoman Jones had a choice here. She could either say, those are my constituents, we're going to have a discussion. But unfortunately, she chose to say, I don't intend to get into any details about methodology. And by the way, this email from the contractor with some explanations in it was not shared in that meeting. It was hidden. We didn't even know this email existed until after the public records request. And by the way, this is a meeting to discuss methodology, and she's not going to get into a discussion about methodology. She says, I don't think any methodology would change their opinion. Okay, so we have the mayor's project delegated to a city councilwoman who's openly stating that she will not discuss the citizens' concerns with them, and that the only reason she's coming to this meeting is to convince them that she's right. She's not going to provide any information that she doesn't think will change people's minds. Legal? Yeah. Unfortunately, yes. Transparent? No. We can see that these reporting laws are inadequate. So when people tell you that they are 100% legally compliant and that equates to transparency, that's not true. We need to go above and beyond the law to be transparent. When the citizens brought these concerns to a city council meeting, none of the concerns regarding the survey were addressed. And by the way, we did finally read the email from the survey contractor, and it still does not refute the concerns that the citizens had regarding the methods of the survey. This was a marketing poll. It was a push poll. They did not make the appropriate changes to make it a true opinion poll to discover what the citizens of Mapleton wanted. And when the citizens brought this to the city council meeting, they were told, it's too early. It's just a survey. Why are you guys upset about this? I'm very confused as to why we're fighting about this. It's too early in the process. This is the opaque part of the process. You guys will be brought in at the last minute when it's the transparent part of the process. You can't have 100% transparency when only the last piece of your process is the transparent part, because that's the part that the law requires you to make transparent. The citizens at that city council meeting were dismissed, and they were gaslit, and their concerns were minimized. And to this day, we still haven't had those concerns addressed, and they are still using that survey to push this mayoral agenda forward. Is it any wonder that this ended up on social media? When emails, meetings, city council meetings yield absolutely no conversation, only gaslighting and dismissal. Why is Mayor Hakes surprised that this ended up on social media? And he's even trying to shut it down here. If you read the mayoral newsletter that got sent out on your dollar to every home in Mapleton, Mayor Hakes encouraged people to get off of social media. He also did the same thing in the debate, where he essentially blames the divisiveness in the city on social media. I disagree. The divisiveness of the city is occurring because Mayor Hakes has shut down discourse on every avenue except social media. And I can tell you from firsthand experience, it can be very, very hard to wade through the people who cannot respectfully disagree with you, to wade through the personal insults and attacks. But underneath all of that, this has been the only place where there has been real conversation and real discourse. Everywhere else has been controlled by Mayor Hakes, by the city council. The public is not being heard. If Mayor Hakes controls the information, then there's no transparency. Only partial truths in bold print that are convenient to his agenda, and pages upon pages of fine print in the truths that the law requires him to state behind a paywall wherever it can be possibly behind a paywall. It's possible and unfortunately legal for our government to control information in this way. This is not transparent. It is very expensive to pay for transparency under this administration. And a few city council, you can see again that in the emails it gets a little even more concerning that they're controlling information even in City Hall, where you can see that certain members of City Council are included in these projects at a very early point. The rest of the City Council is brought in very late and only by word of mouth, from what I can see. And so how can we even trust our city councilors to be making informed decisions? You know, we as voters can't when our city councilors aren't making informed decisions. This isn't transparency. And the City Code of Ethics states that the public office is a public trust. The trust of the public is essential for government to function effectively. A government's legitimacy is linked to the integrity of its public officers. Public policy must be based on honest and fair deliberations and decisions. This process must be free from threats, favoritism, undue influence, and any other form of impropriety so that the confidence of the public is not eroded. We've seen the confidence of the public be consistently eroded, especially over the last year, in favor of an agenda. And unfortunately, this administration has been representing an agenda to us rather than representing us. It's time for a change.